It's the first week of October, and the yellowfin tuna fishing continues to roll on. Let's check in with the crew from Canyon Runner.
All right, all you folks at the Fisherman, welcome to the last week of September, and unbelievably so, maybe the busiest weekend of the year. I just wanted to show you something. This was Saturday. This is just our map, the CR map, which, by the way, folks, you can download our app from your app store. Just go Google CR map or Canyon Runner. You can download this app for free and use it for a week. It will just have a line that's 10 miles offshore. You won't get to see all this action with our members actually out there, but you can use all the other features. But I just wanted to show you this because Saturday was probably the busiest day of the year. Just when you have beautiful weather falling on a weekend, it was the only day really people could fish for about a bunch of days. Although some people, today's Monday morning, there's some people out there right now. There's a couple of people that got out there late Friday afternoon, but Saturday was just unbelievable. And what this shows you is a time-lapse loop from midnight Saturday morning, everyone racing offshore. This was the Coimbra area. You got the Bacardi, you got the Tower, you have the Triple Rex, you had the Hudson. We had people in the Dip. We had people out east. But it was a fun weekend. It was great. Now let's get to the weather first. We're going to pause this because it's using up a lot of data speed. Okay, the weather. Another cool thing, we're a little bit weather geeks over here. It happens to you when you're running 100 miles offshore, 200 days a year, like we have for the last 40 years. But very unique system, these two tropical systems. Powerful hurricane here. Just cool to watch. Actually, I'll get these members off the map so you can just see the weather. Cool to watch what we're dealing with today. And right now, if you actually go to the weather observations, you're dealing with a high above us and two lows with the hurricanes below us. You get these northeast winds. It actually, and this happened a lot this year, it actually blew up. Look at this, 20, 21, 19 knots. But what's weird about it is it's just in a certain area, and you get this little line in northeast. Some boats are getting beat up right now as they're trying to get out here. Other boats that snuck out and got out to where folks are fishing right now, which here they are. It wasn't that bad. Boats trying to go now are getting beat up. But the long and short of the weather, folks, is it's the end of September. It's fall. We kind of have a rule, and this is all that matters. The forecast changes every 6 hours this time of year. You can no longer make decisions like noon the day before whether or not you're going fishing. You literally just have to get ready to go. Probably invest in some bait that you may have to put back in the freezer when you look again at the forecast at 3 in the morning. That's all there is to talk about the weather this time of year. Yeah, we're not going anywhere middle of the week. This is kind of obvious when you got a big system like this. But a big heads up, it looks like, and look, I just said, you can't actually decide if you're going until 6 hours before, but you can look at big major weather patterns like this monster high pressure system that's protecting us from these storms. It's this high that's protecting the entire East Coast. It's a monster high pressure. So where that high ends up being by Friday, if it's right here, it's going to be another gorgeous weekend. It's going to be another weekend where guys can look at that high, just sitting there right over. If you look at the extended temperatures, you're talking 80s again for October 4, 5, 6. We might get another good weekend of fishing in before this is all over. So great. So let's get into it. What are we going to be doing? Here is the track lines from the weekend. It's almost useless. It literally blacked out the map from Montauk all the way down to Cape May of folks fishing. So it's probably best if I take it off as we look at the water temperature. We'll just leave a couple of the pro tip on here. It was cloudy and overcast, so we didn't have some great shots. But basically, this is the eddy that we've been fishing for months. If you start to look at the water temperature up here, it's cold up here now. In fact, I'll put this back. It's cold up here now in Maine, down in Cape Cod, but and along eastern Nantucket. But it is flat out the best bluefin fishing that we've had. The best of it, the giant bluefins, the best of it is over here by the Regal Sword. There are boats the last couple of days hooking 5, 10 fish in a day. The giant fishing is outstanding here. But there's solid giant fishing on Stellwagen as well. You could see there's a lot more activity all of a sudden. These folks had really poor fishing the whole year. Great fishing now. There's a lot of boats out at Regal Stored the last several days who are just absolutely crushing it. Unfortunately, for the most of what we do, the midshore fishing south of Nantucket, south of the vineyard, south of Block, there's nothing going on. The folks fishing out of here, as you can see, are working their way all the way down to these canyons. Some are even coming from all the way over here to fish the Coimbra area. But let's look at the water first. What we're talking about with water is this is the eddy. It's right here. This was from Saturday, okay? By now, this temperature breaks 68 to basically 71. This line on Monday is here. Probably by the time after this storms blow through and we're fishing again Friday or Saturday, it's basically going to be halfway between the dip and the Hudson. This thing's going to move fast. They always do. You watch them all year long. They finally get in range of the folks in New Jersey and Delaware and Maryland, and they just fly right down the line. But it will fly right down the line. Folks are going to be fishing this for the next 5 or 6 weeks. As for water temperature, there's really not much to talk about. I didn't even worry about trying to find a good shot. There's decent water here. There's nice enough, but there's no real Gulf Stream influence. There's no finger of Gulf Stream water. There's nothing that held the marlin anymore, and they basically picked up and they're out of here. The marlin are now down. You can see our pro staff down in the Outer Banks. This is where the whites are now, and it's pretty good fishing. And it's even getting to the point in here where the mahi's up, because we know the mahi fishing down here has really slacked off. They're there, but the water's cooling off enough where they're just not that active, and they're very hard to catch, and no one's filling the boat with mahis. Big shout out to our pro staff on the Really Babe. The guys they did it smaller boat. They weren't going to work their way out. They worked Massey's hard here, and they got a nice wahoo out of there. Actually, it might be the biggest wahoo that was weighed in Delaware this year. Hopefully there's a little bit more of that. Really what we're hoping for, and this is one of our boats, one of our charter boats that are members out here today, looking for the bluefins to show up inshore where they were all last fall. And that's kind of what we're going to hang our hat on. There is one other thing that folks are hoping on, that these fish that have just like camped out for 14 weeks, and we'll talk about this in a second, from the triple wrecks up to the Coimbra, did they start moving down the 40 fathom line. This was the week last year where we finally had fish, and they had a really tough tuna season last year. And then the first couple of weeks of October, the fish were at the hot dog and the teacup. We're hoping for that to happen again. Literally what we're talking about in here to get excited about is Restless Lady 2, one of our pro staff boats, was daytime sorting, had birds go by, there were yellowfins under him, he caught 2. That was exciting for everybody. Next day, another private boat caught 2. That's how tough the tuna fishing is down there when the whole fleet's getting excited about 2 fish. Now, on the flip side, you can actually see the Low Profile and the Euphoria, 2 of our South Jersey pro staff boats, are actually coming all the way up here. Their last several trips, and LBI Sport Fishing has actually moved their boat to Barnegat, which is what folks need to do. You're just going to have to put in extra time, come up this way, move your boat if you need to, but it hasn't ended. And by the way, there's no reason to even look at the water temperature, because all this fishing in here, all these track lines, all these dots, it's all about just the bait. And the areas we're fishing again, you have the Tower, you have the Bacardi. These are the hills, quote unquote, the hills of the triple wrecks. And then as we come up the line, and we don't have pro staff fishing here, we just have members, but all this area is, here's the Coimbra. And what we have, and what all these boats are right now, there's draggers. There were squid draggers. They were dragging for squid for a couple of weeks now. Some of them switched over to scalpers, but the tuna aren't leaving them. And it's kind of odd. It's like one day you have the best fishing down at the hills of the Triple X. The next day it's the Tower. The next day it's up at the Coimbra. Today, quite frankly, everyone at the Coimbra is crushing it. For over the weekend, they didn't do that well there, relatively speaking, to like the folks that were the Tower. And then it just bounces from spot to spot, day to day. When we had, there was probably 300 boats out, not all our members, obviously, but there's probably 300 boats out Saturday between the Coimbra down to the triples. And I got to tell you, they actually did better than I thought. That's how many fish are there. Usually you get 300 boats, nobody catches. Well, there's so many fish there that maybe 30-40% of the boats had decent enough trips to make it worthwhile. Pushing out to the canyons, we did have a flurry here in the 100 square Saturday morning, where we thought actually, okay, the fish are sliding out. We had a couple boats with 8, 9s, 10s, 11 yellowfin and longfin. There was a couple big eyes caught in here. There was tuna fish caught halfway between the dip on down here. There was one boat that basically spent a long time in here at the dip, caught a few fish, but it was slower. And as you went east, it was slow. It wasn't great. The elephants are up in here. It wasn't great canyon fishing. We did have a little bit of a big eye action. I think one boat had 3 or 4 big eyes out here, West Atlantis, but no yellowfins. One of the biggest news is there was a boat who, not a member of ours, but there was a boat out in Beach that just crushed the swordfish. And that's big news because that's what everyone's looking for right now. And it's weird. One Friday night, a whole bunch of boats had swords between the dip and the Hudson. The next night, it wasn't that good at all. That's been the sword fishing this year. One other thing I want to look at here, and it's going to be tough to see it on the map with everyone on it. Maybe we could see it in here. Is what's going on inshore. And let's just take these off and we could talk about it. There's just too many boats on this map. So as for the giants again, and basically the giant tuna fishing, I started with it, I'm going to end with it because it is off the charts up here. The commercial season is going to open this week. It's going to last for a couple of days. There's going to be so many fish caught. The quota's been done. But basically off Point Judith, off of Montauk, off of Shinnecock, 80 feet, actually even shallower, 40 feet out to 100 feet of water, just south of the Rockaway Reef. There are giants being hooked every day. Get out there with a live bluefish, basically a 2 to 4 pound live bluefish hanging under a balloon on a 130 because you got to release them. So we don't want to kill these fish on a 50-pound class reel. Put out a 130. Enjoy some catch and release fishing. This is just going to go on now for months. We're going to be talking about it for months. And what we really want to hope is some more manageable fish in the 60 to 70 class fish get in here, and a lot of topwater action will happen, and it's just going to start sliding down the coast. I know right now we have a few boats looking for them right in here today in the lanes. That's what's going to happen next, folks, and we're looking forward to it because more people can get in on it. But for now, predictions-wise, I think we're talking 2 more weeks where we're just going to see this type of a mess between these areas because these draggers aren't moving, the bait isn't moving, and the fish isn't moving. The water's going to stay warm enough for at least another 2 weeks, particularly with more warm weather just coming in. Then eventually these fish will back off into that eddy, and it'll probably be Hudson Canyon fishing until the end of October. So with that, back to you folks. Thank you very much. As always, talk to you next week.
Now let's hear what Jim Hutchinson has from his buddies on the Jersey coast.
In his offshore report this week at Fisherman.com, New Jersey, Delaware Bay Edition field editor Tom Pagliaroli summarized it best by calling it weather dependent. That's offshore fishing during the fall hurricane season. When there is good weather on the weekend, it's meant the pressure has been on at areas like the Triple Rex, Bacardi, and Texas Tower, with yellowfin up to 70 pounds. You also have big eye in the Hudson at this point. White marlin remain thick in the southern canyons with good numbers of blue marlin in the mix as well. Mahi, of course, plentiful around the pots and debris in the canyons and just inside the canyons. With this blow, of course, more floating debris could be key. With that being said, of course, weather dependent is the term of the day, with a tag team of tropical storms blowing past us this week in the form of Umberto and Imelda. It's anyone's guess where the bite will be after seas subside a bit after this passing glance. Now, we take a quick look at the worst of it from the Hudson to Baltimore on Tuesday and Wednesday. It provides a good snapshot of the narrow windows concept. That said, ignoring the lay days and looking ahead, it has been pretty solid yellowfin-wise in the northern half of the Garden State in terms of folks getting out there in the days ahead looking for tuna. Bill at the Real Sea talked about a quote-unquote sick bite with yellowfin in the areas of the Bacardi, Texas Tower, and Triple Rex through this past weekend. Fish ranging from 40 to 60 pounds, with a few in the 70-pound class. Now, Bill said the Pink Glow UVT jigs in 80 to 200 grams are catching some fish. The best bets, of course, at this time of year follow the scallop boats and chunk with butters or sardines as well. Bill said, quote, "Be aware of the sharks out there. I've seen a few photos and videos of tuna with big bites out of them." Now, we're hearing that a lot in recent weeks. In fact, the crew of the Jersey Nuts runs out of Point Pleasant and Atlantic City. Well, they had an overnighter September 24th into the 25th, had good tuna and mahi action, loads of bites everywhere they went. But Captain Cody said sharks were the worst he's ever seen, with the toothy predators eating close to 10 of their fish. Captain Jonathan Kelly of LBI Sport Fishing out of Beach Haven called last Friday's trip a grind because of the sharks. Quote, I've never seen them this bad in New Jersey. We hooked fish after fish, but ended up feeding at least 10 yellowfin to the taxman before we can get them to the boat. Frustrating to say the least. Still, we fought through it and put 4 nice tuna on ice, topped off the box with 7 mahi. Crank fast, boys and girls. The coastal shark predation problem is real. In fact, I've heard a great deal of reports of bull sharks in close in recent weeks, a frightening concept, especially for folks who are doing a little bit of diving along the inshore waters. It's becoming a problem. Speaking of divers, Dennis and Tommy Huber, rod and reel this time, launched out of Barnegat the other day, headed offshore 75 miles, butted up with another fellow single engine 23. So they planned carefully. They've got a smaller boat with a single Suzuki. They said, pay attention, make the run together, but they crushed it. Dennis said, landing 3 quality yellowfin. Another reader report out of Central Jersey comes by way of Kurt Walrath. His first time for mahi as well as tuna and tilefish somewhere east of Seaside Park aboard the Hypnotized, said it was truly unbelievable seeing these mahi leap out of the water and in the air so far. Truly fantastic trip. Bacardi, Texas Tower, Triple Rex. Those are the primary areas where you'll find the fleet again after the blow, especially around the scallop draggers, or perhaps the 100 square, where Jason at Fisherman Supply said green wolfpack ahi bird chain at a 6 to 6.5 knot troll produced big eye to 180 pounds last week. Farther south, Nick from Hands 2 Bait and Tackle in Cape May said it's still white marlin in the southern canyons with pots along the 30-mile line producing some mahi as well. Jason at South Jersey Marina echoed that report. White marlin on trolled ballyhoo in the Baltimore, mahi to 25 pounds at the lobster pots along the 50-fathom line inside the Wilmington and the Baltimore. Again, eye on the weather as you're making these trips. Early doom and gloom by the armchair meteorologists to start the work week. But it looks ahead like it could clean up rather quickly as we progress into the very first weekend of October.
From Long Island, we have East End Anglers and their report.
Thanks, Tim. So the report this week for Offshore, guys. As sort of discussed, the eddy that has been moving east to west from last week sort of dissipated, moved off the shelf, but there are still good temp breaks along the western canyons, a little bit to the east, but primarily to the west. We were at the Hudson Canyon, for example. Fairly strong bite, albacore and yellowfin mixed in. We didn't get a big eye, but we heard a bunch of people getting some. Mahi also getting bigger, guys. And, around any sort of a floating structure, etc., whether that be caught on ballyhoo or spreader bars. And also midshore, the yellowfin fishing has also been pretty strong, especially around those draggers. So, some boats getting up to a dozen yellowfin in a single day, guys. So, whether on chunks, topwater, jigging. So really exciting time of year. We love September, sort of fall fishing, guys, and hopefully more great stuff to come. So see you next week. Back to you, Tim.
Sorry, no New England report this week. Mike Hatchie tried his best, called all over the place. Nobody sailed. So we have no reports from New England, but maybe we will next year. Remember, like our video and tap on that bell to get notified whenever we have a new video on YouTube. We'll see you right here at thefisherman.com.